and gentlemen, and welcome to the undisputed heavyweight champion of the world show made for the fans by a fan. I am your host, as always, Richard Tiemann. This is the award-winning Fan Show. Happy Tuesday to you all out there. It is, happy Fan Appreciation Week. I guess that's another thing that we're doing annually on the Fan Show. We did one, I remember, first year of the Fan Show, then last year it was a big hit as well. And it's just that I like to take a little time, not necessarily off, but a time to give back. It is the Fan Show after all, and who would I be without the strong, unstoppable force that is Fan Nation, growing and growing and growing by the minute, by the day, by the week. And I thank you all so much, once again, like I try to always do here on the show, for your love and support. But Fan Appreciation Week, a lot of people do it. A lot of people do Fan Appreciation Day, but seeing as how I have 3 episodes in a week, might as well just have part 1, part 2, and part 3. So tonight is part 1 of Fan Appreciation Week, the 3rd annual Fan Appreciation Week, and I just like to give the floor to you, the fans, and get your thoughts on things. Let you guys be part of the Fan Show, because you are part of the Fan Show, but why not let you have some airtime? We'll have a conversation, and yeah, you can have your 10 to 15 minutes of fame right here on the show made for the fans by a fan. So welcome to part 1 of Fan Appreciation Week. Going to be a good show. We kick things off tonight with Jimmy Baconator Pratt. He is a flight crew member and Iowa Barnstormer superfan, which is pretty much the same thing. The flight crew is the Barnstormers superfan club, and so he will join me. He's one of the guys that's been so good to me since my travels started last year. One of the first Barnstormer fans I met. He has housed me. He has fed me. And he has entertained while I've been in Iowa and introduced me to some amazing people. So I cannot thank him enough for that. And he's going to come on. There's some breaking news out of Cedar Rapids that I'm sure he'll have some thoughts on, which we'll get to in a moment with headlines. And then after that, Shayne Merriman, who I'm a fan of and is a fan of the show, is going to come on. We're going to recap what was Money in the Bank, the WWE pay-per-view, and get his thoughts on it. So it's going to be a great episode. You won't want to miss it. If you miss it live, be sure to download it in podcast form, which the downloads have been on the rise. Meteoric rise, really, for downloads. I'm very impressed, very happy with those numbers that I've seen the last 2 months. We're just over the midway point for June, and we could have another all-time record for total plays. That includes listens live, downloads on one of multiple sources, and then of course the on-demand plays, which is where you go on either the website or Spreaker.com. But going to be a lot of fun tonight. I cannot wait to get the guests on, but they're going to have to wait just a little bit longer because we do have our obligations here on the show. We must talk about the headlines and such. And what are you doing, Fozzie? Why can't you go play with that in the kitchen, Fozzie? Anyway, my kitten is playing with one of those rolly balls that rattles right down by my feet. Apparently, he wants me to pay attention to him, but I can't. Not for like another hour. You are too cute. Run away. Be cute somewhere else for a little bit. Okay, folks. So, headlines. Here we go. Headlines, of course, brought to you by Dynamite Enterprises, where you can get anything you want your logo or artwork on. You just got to go to dynamiteenterprises.com or hit up Ethan, 509-723-0140, Ethan at dynamiteenterprises.com. Whether it's custom apparel, shirts and hats, promotional items, embroidery, trophies, stickers, banners, screen print, trophies, lanyards. I think we said trophies, and he's made a bunch of them, but he does it all there at Dynamite Enterprises. That's the point. And the shirts that he made for me, selling off the shelf. I say that every time, and I mean that every time. I'm about to sell out this most recent batch again. And who would have thunk it? My trip to United Bowl may very well be paid for by fan show funds, which has never happened in the history of the show. Now, we're still early in the show's history, but every milestone is a great one, and I just want to thank all those of you that have supported the show in any way that you can. If you've bought a t-shirt, if you donated to this, if you mentioned me in that, if you shared this, then you guys are just fantastic. You are too awesome for words, but I love you. I love you all, and I want you to know that. Big thanks to Tyler Knight, who sent me a shirt of his, and it fits great. I'm very proud to support my friends in all their endeavors, because you want to be able to be one of the people that during their early goings, their struggles, you were there, whether it was just an ear or an eye, what do you think of this? How does this look? And you don't want to hop on the bandwagon when it's already almost full. So support your friends, because one, they're your friends, and it's something that you should do. But two, it feels great to be on the ground floor of something that becomes something great. And that's what I am for my friends. So Tyler Knight, best of luck to you. I feel bad. Mike Giorgetti got a shirt. Well, no, he didn't get a shirt. He got a shredded envelope with no shirt in it. So I'll have to send out him another one, courtesy of Dynamite Enterprises. Customize your world. That was a really long way to get back to what we were talking about, which was that headlines are brought to you by Dynamite Enterprises. The headlines today are that we had some change of ownership in the IFL. Now, this was apparently supposed to be breaking news yesterday. It is Tuesday. This came out today per my little email notification here. Cedar Rapids, Iowa, official press release. At a February news conference, ownership of the Cedar Rapids Titans announced that the team was for sale. So all season long, they've been for sale with no ownership, pretty much. The number one priority was to secure a new ownership group that would keep the team in Cedar Rapids and in the Cedar Rapids community. On Tuesday, the current ownership, in conjunction with the Indoor Football League, announced a sales agreement with Roy Choi, CHOI, a California businessman, to purchase the 7-year-old Indoor Football League franchise. The new ownership group is committed to keeping the franchise in Cedar Rapids and has signed a league affiliation agreement with the Indoor Football League for the 2019 season. Choi is the managing partner of Knighted Ventures, a California-based company investing and managing projects in entertainment and gaming. He is also the executive producer of Collaboration with a K Global, and a national nonprofit organization that provides Asian American artists and leaders a platform to discover, empower, and connect. And let's see, the league is pleased to welcome Roy and his ownership group to the IFL family, stated IFL Commissioner Michael Alshouse. We are excited to open the book to a new chapter in the great history of the Titans franchise. Choi and his ownership group intend to hire a complete office staff and announce organizational plans, including season ticket information for the 2019 season in the coming weeks. Stay tuned, CedarRapidsTitans.com or GoIFL.com. So that's been one of the question marks that's kind of been put on the back burner all season long, is what's going to happen with the Titans. They competed all season, competed very well. Had it not been for the game that they got screwed out of, pretty much, it got canceled and was not rescheduled, they could very well be in the postseason. However, they would have needed to win that last game, which they did not. So the top 4 teams that should be in are in, at least if you want to look at it from a standing standpoint. I don't know how much you could argue that Nebraska really deserves to be in. But before we get to that, the big question has been answered. What's going to happen with the Titans? It was for sale. It is no longer. It has been purchased. California businessman, and they are signed through 2019, which is good. That's good for the league. That's good for the team. I thought there was going to be a move. I thought the Titans were going to move and relocate elsewhere, but apparently not. And so with that, we have new life breathed into the Cedar Rapids Titans, and I'm sure that Baconator will have plenty to say about that as sort of a dual fan, but not so much recently because of the way that fans have been treated, the ones that actually show up to the Cedar Rapids games. But good folks on that team, Medlock, Marvin Jones, the head coach, Hollenbeck. So hopefully this is a sign of brighter days to come for the Cedar Rapids Titans. In other news, as I mentioned, it is now confirmed the 1, 2, 3, and 4 seed going into the one-round playoff and then advancing to the championship for the Indoor Football League. All 3 teams that were atop the league tied, they won. So they remained tied, and we were prepared for what the tiebreaker would be. And as I mentioned on Thursday, and again on NBC Sports Radio in Phoenix with Mr. Dave Isaac, Iowa was the only one really in control of their own destiny. If they win, then it was a done deal. The road to the United Bowl would go through and possibly be in Des Moines, Iowa, at the Well. Now, as far as Arizona, they needed to win. They needed Iowa to lose because that would give them one game up on Iowa, who they have dropped 3 straight to. Not 3 games in a row, but 3 contests in a row to Iowa. And then Sioux Falls needed to win and have both Arizona and Iowa lose because they are sort of last in line as far as the tiebreaker goes. But all 3 won, so as we saw going into the week is how it came out. Number 1 seed, Iowa Barnstormers. First time in franchise history. They continue to make history, and we'll see if this history has a happy ending that involves a hoisting of a United Bowl trophy and the first championship in franchise history. Number 2 is the Arizona Rattlers. Number 3 is the Sioux Falls Storm, and number 4 is the Nebraska Danger. So the Danger will be in Iowa for that first round, and Sioux Falls will go on the road to Arizona. Now, Arizona has beaten Sioux Falls 3 times in a row, including their championship matchup in last year's United Bowl. So the Sioux Falls Storm have yet to beat Arizona this year, this season, this 365-day period. And they're very much looking to do just that this weekend. So June 22nd, Nebraska takes on Iowa. Kickoff is 8:05 Eastern, 5:05 Pacific at the Well. June 23rd, Sioux Falls Storm will take on the Arizona Rattlers. That one is a late one. That one is going to be 9:05 Eastern, 6:05 Pacific time. So make sure that you've juiced up on your Red Bull. We've got a game Friday. We've got a game Saturday. And those that win, that will be your 2018 Indoor Football League United Bowl Championship. Best of luck to all 4 teams. It has been an incredible season as shown by the top 3, which all have a tied record going into this. And Nebraska is one of Iowa's 3 losses that was not result of the Sioux Falls Storm. Sioux Falls is, their only losses are to Arizona and Iowa, and Arizona, their only losses are to Iowa. So it goes round and round and round. It's crazy. It's chaos. I love it. In the National Arena League, there were games, and there were incredible finishes. So the Maine Mammoths won 62-36 over the Lehigh Valley Steelhawks. They continue their winless campaign in 2018, and the Mammoths get a second one in the win column. The Columbus Lions fall just shy. The Pirates score with .04 seconds left. Walk-off touchdown, 62-55 is your final. And I got to say, it's because Amir was on the show with the voicemail going into the week. I'm going to take full credit for that incredible win. But that will do it for your headlines. I'm going to go ahead and bring on my first guest, Jimmy the Baconator. We will be right back with more of The Fan Show after this. You're listening to The Fan Show, your home for all things football and nonsense. My special guest tonight, Farouk. Farouk, welcome.
He's no expert, but here's the thing. Football and nonsense is what he brings. Sports talk with a twist. It's the F.A.N Show.
Do you know him as Kevin from the League? It is none other than very funny Steve Ranazisi.
99% of the population doesn't know who I am, but the 1% do. They yell and scream inappropriate things at me in public.
Kyle Ray. Kyle, welcome.
And I was like, wow, I think we just saw the whole Super Bowl, Phyllis. It's like that scene in The Simpsons. Like, why rent the movie? I just saw the best part.
Funny man Brad Williams.
Yeah, I'm here. No, I flew in just for your podcast. I've heard about this podcast. I've heard it's fantastic.
It's Mac and Farva, but they are my special guests tonight. Steve Lenny, Kevin Heffernan.
I was in Mexico for 10 weeks in a Speedo. Like, that was me going to work. I was putting on a Speedo.
Farva is the most fun to play, and it was a blast to do that again, to do Farva again.
So then the makeup artist had to put Vaseline on your body, right?
Yeah.
And then put the powdered sugar on top of that. Is your name really Richard Siemens?
Listen live every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday night on Spreaker.com or subscribe to the podcast on iTunes and SoundCloud. All right, ladies and gentlemen, here to help lead off Fan Appreciation Week 3.0, Part 1, is a man who needs no introduction if you're one of the super fans in the IFL. But if you don't know him, you should. It's Jimmy the Baconator. Pratt, how you doing, Jimmy?
Hey, Rich, good to hear from you, bud. Doing well tonight. How are you?
Doing pretty good. Trying to keep up with all the happenings going on right now because we know the four and we know the order of the four going into the postseason, which we will talk about in a minute because that's the important thing. But today, breaking news out of Cedar Rapids, there is new ownership for the Titans, and I know that you've kind of been on the fence this season about where your fandom for the Titans lies and just how much, and understandably so. It was a rough 2018 campaign. There were some things done or not done that rubbed some people very much the wrong way. So your thoughts, breaking news, new ownership, give me some what's on the mind of Jimmy.
Yeah, I tell you, Rich, I'm so happy. I mean, we've been over the past several months, when the announcement was made back in January that Mr. Kokalis was selling the team, I was hoping that we would have gotten this news a little bit sooner than, after the season's over. But yet I get it. We've been kind of hanging on by a thread, listening to, certain things from certain people, and it's just it's a win-win for the city of Cedar Rapids. And as Rich, I cruise over there. I go to all the games, or as many games as I can attend, and I think it's just a great thing. And plus, they're staying in the IFL. There was kind of some rumblings I'd been hearing the past few days that the new owner might join the CIF or a different league. But no, it's a good thing with them staying in the IFL. Don't know the man. I don't know Mr. Choi, but it's going to be great to meet up with him.
Yeah, and I think that, smart business reflects smart decisions, and probably the smartest decision that could have been made in the early goings of this new ownership is staying in this league, because there is a great rivalry between the Barnstormers and the Titans. There is a storied franchise of 7 years with the Titans, and they're just a well-known franchise within the league, within the area, that if you put in place the right pieces, the right ownership, and put money in the right places, it can be a very good, very fun, very thriving franchise. So I like the move, the decision to stay, which is kind of a non-move in itself. But yeah, it's interesting that you say that the rumblings and the rumors were that they were going to move or go to a different league, and I just know what you're referring to, because that forum just gets flooded with people that think they know, but it turns out they don't know anything at all. And I just love it when moments like that happen.
Yeah. Oh, yes. I agree, Rich. I mean, I've been kind of I was in a group chat with several Cedar Rapids fans, along with Mr. Kokalis, that he'd set up with, is kind of keeping us in the know of what's going on. And You know, and I'm happy for him. I'm so happy that he has gotten the team sold, and now he can move on to his new ventures down in Orlando with the soccer and that. And that's great. That's his thing right now. But by the same token, I feel bad for him, because I know he put so much energy and so much thought into this team back in when he first acquired it, and worked so hard to try to win a championship. And several years he had a very good team, Richard, as you recall.
Yep. Yeah.
And I always wish that. Well, that was my first, that was my first introduction to the IFL with the Titans. That was even before the Barnstormers joined. And, and great guy. I've never had issues with Chris since I've met the man. And he's always been straightforward with me. Great guy, and I wish him nothing but the best.
Yeah, and that's the important thing, is that as long as, there's no hard feelings and that people have done what's best for them, and in turn is best for everybody else, because I think that's the important thing. Like if I was doing a terrible job of running and hosting the show, but people liked what the show had become, I would hope that I could find someone to replace me to keep the show going. It's just taking what is the negative out of a positive, which is what Cedar Rapids did, and so that's good on them. Like I said, very happy. This is new beginnings for the Titans. I really would like to see Dylan Favre become involved with the franchise in some way, whether it's front office or anything like that, a coach. But I think it would be a great name to add in there, as well as to see, if Marvin Jones sticks around, if they keep Medlock, because they had a lot of great pieces, but clearly not the right backing. So plenty of things to happen and pieces to fall in place in the next year before next season.
Exactly.
Speaking of next season, though, we have to get through this one first, and we're now at the official postseason portion of the 2018 IFL campaign, and we know we know who will play who. It finished exactly like we had hoped and thought that it would. Iowa is the number 1 seed for the first time in franchise history. They will host Nebraska, and Arizona is the number 2 seed. They will host Sioux Falls. Both of those matchups are great. What makes the Nebraska-Iowa game significant is that of the 3 losses that Iowa has, 2 were to Sioux Falls and 1, oddly enough, was to Nebraska. What are your thoughts about this first round of the playoff to determine who goes to the United Bowl?
Well, of course I'm going to say Iowa, but, I still don't understand what happened in Nebraska. They had all the pieces in place to start the season, with bringing in Mark Stout as your head coach. That, he's kind of like royalty in this league. But the wheels kind of fell off. I mean, wish them nothing but the best in the future. But I'm going to give Iowa the nod on this one, of course. The intriguing game will be the Sioux Falls, Arizona game. That's the one that's going to be the biggie right there.
Yes.
I'm not sure who I'd want to meet. You know what I mean? If Iowa does pull off the win Friday, we've already beaten Arizona 3 times this year. Can we do it a 4th time? I don't know. We're 2-1 against Sioux Falls this year, and we gave the game away here a couple weeks ago up there. But that's another story in itself. But I don't know. It's going to be a great matchup. Whoever, like I said, if we, I'm not going to put the horse behind the cart or whatever it is, But it'll be an extremely entertaining United Bowl, whoever we get.
So let me ask you this, from a fan perspective and being around this league for so long and seeing the different changes and the teams come and go. At this level, if Nebraska were to run the table, win this weekend, and then win the United Bowl, all with, what, a 4-10 record, like, is the rest of the season a joke at that point? Like, would they have deserved it? Like, I'm just trying to sort of figure out what a win in either round for Nebraska would mean.
Yeah, that's what I mean. You know, they kind of went dormant here after those first 5 games. It's like, what if they do wake up? I know they have a lot of injuries. I know Xavier, for example, all-league, all-world Xavier Jackson, defensive lineman, he's out. I mean, he was kind of a pretty important cog in that system. They lost their quarterback early on in the season. And, I mean, they've gone through a lot of problems, but what would happen, Richard? I mean, what if they did run the table, make it to the frickin' Arena Bowl or United Bowl, and actually pull it off?
I don't know. It's a hell of a what if. I don't see it happening, but I also, don't want it to feel like
you can't write it off though. Either,
you can't write it off. And you don't want any team to have like a free pass, but if you get a team that's 4-10 in that championship game, it just I don't know.
Yeah.
I was going to ask you,
9-game losing streak or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's got to be some issues going on out there, and I don't know what it is or who it is, why it is, but yeah, there's some problems out there.
So one scenario I did want to run by you, as you mentioned, is that you said, should Iowa win, you're not sure who you would want to play in the United Bowl, because both present intriguing matchups in their own right. Now, obviously, you've beaten Arizona 3 times this season. What would a 4th mean? Could you do it a 4th? I mean, obviously, you got to worry about how many times you can beat the same team, but to beat a team 4 times in a season is not unheard of in this league at this level. But,
right.
We could see for the first time ever a championship between Sioux Falls and Iowa, which before was not possible because they were in the same conference. It now is, and I know that it was Arizona that knocked them off the top of the mountain last year, but you got to think that there's some history, there's some significance to what a win on the biggest stage would be against a team like Sioux Falls,
Oh, whoa, I agree. That's kind of like, how many in a row? 7 in a row up until last season they had earned United Bowl wins. Yeah, that would kind of be like poetic justice there. It would be like, you know what? Hey, Barnstormers are here. We're for real. And it just, that would be a great scenario as well. Plus, the tailgate would be phenomenal. Because, they love to travel, and you know how I am, Rich, how I am with tailgates with that, and I've got a lot of great friends in both cities, met a lot of fans from Arizona, met a ton of fans from Sioux Falls, so, it would, and I know a lot of them. I keep in touch with several of them. They ask me, about, hey, if we make it up there, we're going to tailgate, and getting it from both sides. So, we got to look at that aspect too, for our entertainment value too before the game. But I think deep down, I would like to see us play. I'll go Sioux Falls. I'm going to say Sioux Falls. Iowa and Sioux Falls in the United Bowl.
Okay, all right. That would give them a chance at like their 11th or 12th or however many they're up to. But it would be a phenomenal matchup with a lot of history.
Give them a shot, but hey, we're due.
Yep. Hey, well worth it. So much history, so many history-making moments, I should say, for the Iowa Barnstormers. Got to be a proud Barnstormer fan this year, regardless of the outcome. But of course, as John Pettit said earlier on when he was on the show, that literally the only thing left for this team to give back to its fans is a championship banner to raise. So we'll see if we get that for you guys this season. But Jimmy, always a pleasure. Thanks for helping me kick off Fan Appreciation Week. I will look forward to hopefully...
You're very welcome, my friend.
Seeing you.
And you will be here, correct?
Yes. I will be.
You will be here.
Wherever
All
the
right,
United Bull
okay.
is, I will be there.
All right.
All right, you take care, Jimmy. Have a good night.
All right, buddy. We'll talk to you later, man. Keep in touch. Bye.
And that was the Baconator, Jimmy Pratt. And we're going to move right along here because we're already a few minutes past the time that I told my other guest that he would be on. So Shayne Merriman to talk Money in the Bank coming up right after this.
You're listening to The Fan Show, your home for all things football and nonsense. My special guest tonight, Farouk. Farouk, welcome.
He's no expert, but here's the thing. Football and nonsense is what he brings. Sports talk with a twist. It's the Fan Show.
Do you know him as Kevin from the League? It is none other than very funny Steve Ranazisi.
99% of the population doesn't know who I am, but the 1% do. They yell and scream inappropriate things at me in public.
Kyle Ray. Kyle, welcome.
And I was like, wow, I think we just saw the whole Super Bowl, Phyllis. It's like that scene in The Simpsons. Like, why rent the movie? I just saw the best part.
Funny man Brad Williams.
Yeah, I'm here. No, I flew in just for your podcast. I've heard about this podcast. I've heard it's fantastic.
It's Mac and Farva, but they are my special guests tonight. Steve Lemmy, Kevin Heffernan.
I was in Mexico for 10 weeks in a Speedo. Like, that was me going to work. I was putting on a Speedo.
Like Farva is the most fun to play, and it was a blast to do that again, to do Farva again.
So then the makeup artist had to put Vaseline on your body,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And then put the powdered sugar on top of that. Is your name really Richard Siemens?
Listen live every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday night on Spreaker.com or subscribe to the podcast on iTunes and SoundCloud.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are back for part 2 of part 1, if that makes any sense. Fan Appreciation Week here on the Fan Show, and Shayne Merriman, who I'm a fan of and is a fan of the show, joining me now to talk Money in the Bank. How you doing, Shayne?
I'm doing well. How you doing?
Doing pretty good. We've got plenty to talk about. First, I wanted to know, though, what is your new title? Because it used to be Shayne Merriman of Wrestleaholic, and that has since changed. So is it Shayne Merriman of Shayne Merriman?
Pretty much, yeah. Just me doing me, pretty much.
You doing you. Awesome. Well, we're going to get right into it. Money in the Bank, it seems like they're attempting to make Money in the Bank one of the big four, which would now make it the big five. So you look at the WWE's year, and it ends with WrestleMania, and then now it would kind of start with Money in the Bank, and then you would have SummerSlam, Survivor Series, the Rumble, and then, of course, conclude with WrestleMania. Now, this is a result, I feel, of each pay-per-view being jointly branded, or however they phrase that, which I think is kind of overkill on some. But right. Money in the Bank is kind of that one that they put a lot of extra emphasis on, because it's like a Royal Rumble, but it's not. Especially now that they have both men's and women's Money in the Bank ladder matches. It's an opportunity at an undisclosed time, because it's good for 365 days. But this one, I just feel like they set themselves up for what could be such great finishes, and then they just fall so flat. It's like they intentionally do not listen to what the fans think or feel about their product right now.
Right, yeah, they're definitely trying to give it that Big Four feel. And you're right, it is akin to a Money in the Bank, it is akin to a Royal Rumble, just with ladders and fewer people. But yeah, I'm not sure, because they had two people win Money in the Bank this year with Alexa Bliss and Braun Strowman that didn't really need a Money in the Bank win. Like, they didn't need to have that briefcase to be in the title picture.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
Alexa Bliss had just lost the title at WrestleMania. Braun Strowman was in had a few title shots last year against Brock Lesnar, and for all intents and purposes seemed to be slated to have more once Brock finally dropped the title, presumably to Roman Reigns, whenever that happens. So yeah, I'm not really sure. Like, I was thinking Becky Lynch was probably going to win this year in the women's Money in the Bank, just because she seemed like the most in need of a kick in the butt to the top of the roster, basically. Like last year, we saw Carmella win it. She was the right person to win it. This year, Alexa Bliss won it. It kind of made sense at the end of the show, but not really. And then Braun Strowman walking away with it. I've heard since Money in the Bank, I'm sure you've heard the same thing, that Braun won because Vince wanted a fail-safe, that if they did another Roman Brock title match and the fans crapped on it like they have the last two, that Braun would basically be a fail-safe, that after Roman won, if the fans didn't like it, they could send Braun out, he could kick, he could beat Roman up, take the title, and hopefully send the fans home happy. But they could have done that with Finn Balor, I felt like, because they did such a stupid stipulation. They made the pay-per-view dual brands, but then they only made it where the Money in the Bank winner could go after their respective title on their show.
Yeah.
So, like, that part didn't make any sense to me, because they could have easily had someone like The Miz or Rusev or Samoa Joe win and still got the same thing when Roman Reigns won. Because if Roman Reigns wins and Miz, Joe, Rusev, Finn, or Braun, any of those five come out, the fans are going to be happy with whoever wins. But yeah, this year I was pulling for Finn, and I was pulling for whoever got the nod from the New Day, ended up being Kofi Kingston. And Kofi is probably one of the most deserving guys of a title run in all of WWE that hasn't had one yet.
Yeah, when it comes to the New Day, which hopefully is wrapping up soon, I know that I've had my fill of the New Day, and I feel like Xavier Woods is the least contributing member of that trio. I mean, Big E was such a dominant force in NXT, and now he's like the funny guy, and then Kofi Kingston, with all the talent in the world that he has and all the different titles he's held, it just seems like being a part of that trio is holding both of them back, but it's like exactly what Xavier Woods needs. So hopefully they can break that up, and the ones that need to go on a solo run can do so. But back to the winners, Braun, you're right. He's been in the title picture. He doesn't need a briefcase. He doesn't need an opportunity to seize to get a title. He's the biggest guy in WWE right now that's not the Great Khali and not somebody who was just future endeavored today. So when it comes to the Money in the Bank ladder match, to me has always been a match that is the winner is basically the WWE saying, okay, so here's your big chance, like, make the most of it, or like, here's your last shot, make the most of it, right? And so I'm thinking Finn Balor needs one of those the most, because they've found ways to constantly keep him out of the title picture, that I don't know if they can't find a way to reasonably put him back in, although they don't exactly need a whole lot of reason to do anything with that creative department. But it would have been great for him to win and put him right back in at least the conversation, maybe not the picture just yet. I thought it was too soon for Bobby Roode, because I'd like them to establish what they're going to do with him and his character before they move forward with it. I'd like to see him go back to being the heel that he was on NXT. Samoa Joe would have been a great one to have, just because I feel like the possibilities were endless for how he would have been a contract holder. He's kind of right up there with Braun, though, as far as he's been in the title picture without the briefcase, but I feel like that aspect for the kind of heel that he is would have been very intriguing. The Miz would have been a good choice because he has been before, and we're all anxiously awaiting the Daniel Bryan mid-fuse on SmackDown, and so this would have put that in the back of everybody's mind. Kofi, just because...
I think that's. I'm sorry. I was just going to say. I think that's why a lot of people wanted Miz to win.
Yeah.
Because they see a Daniel Bryan title run in the near future, and they wanted Miz like I could see had Miz won. I could have seen Daniel Bryan winning around Royal Rumble time. Miz comes down, cashes in, and that's our big feud going into WrestleMania for SmackDown. Hopefully, should that happen in the main event, that would be my goal main event of WrestleMania this year, Miz, Daniel Bryan for the WWE Championship. So that's why I was hoping Miz would win.
Yeah, and that's why a lot of people wanted Miz to win, but I think the most needing of it, which is what I tweeted out earlier, was Finn Balor needed it the most. He didn't get it. Instead, the guy that needs it the least got it, and that's Braun Strowman. Now, I was disappointed that there were so many miscellaneous matches on this card as opposed to just having 4 Money in the Bank ladder matches, one for each brand, a SmackDown one, a Raw one for the men, a SmackDown one, a Raw one for the women, because then now you're creating multiple storylines in one night as far as potential winners, and you could miss on one and hit on the other. But the amount of emphasis that they put on the winner would get a future shot at their respective brands championship, I thought was odd, because you're right, the element of any champion at any time kind of left that element of surprise, and they immediately took that out, and they were very clear that would not be the case this time around. So we do have Braun as the winner. We'll see what happens there. Brock Lesnar, if he's ever around for him to cash in, it'll be interesting to see how that works. On the SmackDown side, we have Shinsuke and AJ, which I don't know if that's over yet or not. Part of me kind of wants to be, because I think that their matches have been lackluster except for this last one, and I think it's probably the best time to call it quits after 4. That's usually my limit for feuds, especially in today's WWE. But yeah, Alexa was just a waste of a win and a cash-in. Becky Lynch was really the one that truly needed that opportunity, just like Finn Balor does as well.
Yeah, and it kind of, with the Alexa Bliss win, it kind of felt like a slap in the face to the fans, because Becky was there, she had the briefcase in her hand, and she had the hook actually unhooked. All she had to do was lift it out of the... But, I mean, obviously...
It was so botched. It was so bad.
Yeah, it was
so bad.
Alexa missed her cue somewhere. She didn't make it up the ladder in time.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I mean, it was such a, it was WWE getting your hopes up, and then they just... AJ Styles kicking Shinsuke Nakamura in the balls in the no DQ match, or the last man standing match. That's basically what it felt like.
Yeah, it was a botched finish for the women. And, if it was like the Dean Ambrose cash-in that we saw where he won and cashed in for his first title in the same night, I think it would have been different, right? But Alexa cashed in for her 5th title reign after only not having it for a couple of months. That's a slap in the face, too.
Yeah, her 5th title reign in 2 years.
Yeah.
Like that's... And I'm not taking anything away from Alexa Bliss.
No, I'm a fan.
She's great on the mic. Her in-ring work could use a little bit of work, but 5 title reigns in 2 years is a little excessive. Like you said, it seems like in the past, Money in the Bank has been used to bolster someone to the top of the roster, That has not always worked out. We saw with Baron Corbin last year. For whatever reason, they took that opportunity away from him. They did it with Damian Sandow before that, so... I mean, there have been a few guys that it didn't work out with, but we saw what it did for the Miz's career back in, I think, 2011 when he won, shot him up to the top. He main evented WrestleMania that year. I mean, it can be a great thing. CM Punk, he won 2 back-to-back, and look what it did for his career. Basically put him at the top of the roster for close to 5 years.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it can be a great way to get your next big star that you want up to the top of the roster without having to put too much work into it.
Yeah, it was always the catapult for young and hungry superstars that you thought had a lot of potential, where they didn't have to win a Royal Rumble. Like, they didn't have to make you believe that they could outlast 29 other men. So you put them in a 8-man or 6-man ladder match, and that's a bit more on the believable side. So that's how I've always viewed it, and that has since been proven otherwise with this year alone. But moving forward, you mentioned that Vince wants Braun as like a contingency plan for if there's another Brock and Roman. And it's like, how you can avoid that is by not having another Brock versus Roman match. I mean, you don't have to have a backup plan for that if you just don't have that match. I don't know how many times people have to boo Roman and now Brock out of the building, but I do find it funny that after one of the last pay-per-views where people booed Roman again, I said the only way that you can get people to cheer him is if you have him get injured for a period of time, you have him come back completely rebranded, refreshed, and you put him up against somebody like Jinder, and then they go and they put him up against Jinder, and he still gets booed, and it's like, you can't make this up.
Yeah. Well, I think the first thing they need to do with Roman is, like you said, they need to take him off TV for a little while. And right now would be the perfect time to do that. Take him off TV, I would say all the way through until Royal Rumble, and let him come back in the middle of the Royal Rumble or even towards the end of the Royal Rumble. And let him come back with a totally different look and a totally different song. Because that song, I think that's 90% of the reason why he gets booed is because of that song. Because people associate that with the Shield.
Yeah.
And everyone else, when like Dean Ambrose got a new song, Seth Rollins got a new song, Roman Reigns just got to keep the same old song, and it's old, and every now and then people just need a new song. Like CM Punk changed his song in the middle of his big run. Miz did the same thing, changed his song in the middle of his big run. Dolph Ziggler's changed his song in the middle of his career. Cody Rhodes changed his song 2 or 3 times, So, I mean, people need something new every now and then to refresh their character. Roman Reigns is in a bad way for a new character.
I would like to see,
in one way or another.
I'd like to see Roman Reigns cut his hair and put on a suit, much like the Batista role in Evolution, because that really did well for him. I think Roman could be a good heel with some style if he did that, because he's got the physique and the features to be that suited up kind of high roller heel. Maybe not like to the degree that Bobby Roode was on NXT, but still something different, a different song. I feel like a lot of people overlook just how far you have to invest in the rebranding of someone and how good it can be. Baron Corbin is now Constable Corbin, but he comes out to the same damn music, and it's like, does anyone remember the time that JBL became JBL, and he came out in a suit and a limo, cut his hair, he had this whole new look. He went on to be one of the longest reigning WWE champions in that era, and he was Bradshaw before that from the APA. Right. It's like, you have to go all in when you rebrand someone. You can't just half-ass it.
Yeah, and people have been clamoring for a new heel stable basically ever since the Evolution disbanded. And, I mean, the Shield kind of filled that void, but they were always kind of that in-between stable. Like, they were good guys for 2 or 3 months, and they were bad guys for 4 or 5 months, And let Roman Reigns leave, and then when he comes back, give him himself, Bobby Roode, and 1 or 2 guys from NXT to come up, and then let them just destroy everybody on the Raw. Heck, I don't even give him himself, Bobby Roode, and the Usos, and let the 4 of them just take over Raw. Roman is the Universal Champion, Bobby Roode is the Intercontinental Champion, and the Usos are tag champions. And the whole show is about 4 or 5 good guys trying to knock those guys off their perch all the way through until WrestleMania, until it finally happens.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that could be done, plenty of room for opportunity, but it seems like a constant broken record on the main roster where NXT continues to have, takeover after takeover that exceeds expectations. Now, I wasn't the biggest fan of this last takeover just because I thought that some of the matchups left a little heads to be scratched, like Aleister Black's matchup with Sullivan was just odd to me. But, of course, Velveteen Dream, I think we're looking at this generation's Shawn Michaels. Unfortunately, what that also entails is that some of his best matches will be ones that he loses, but he can outperform just about anybody he's put up in the ring with, and he can make them look better than they are. Now, fortunate enough for him, he's had great rivalries with guys that can perform like Ricochet and Black, but I think you put this guy in the ring with anybody on any roster and he's going to make them look believable, like they're a legitimate competitor. But I cannot wait for him to continue his winning ways and to be a great superstar. Hopefully they don't ruin him on the main roster. Right. But yeah, Velveteen Dream has been great. Ricochet, Aleister Black, and of course the Undisputed Era. But yeah, the women's title match for TakeOver was I'm not a fan of Baszler. I'm just not. I think that the type of superstar and fighter that she is still left to be, I guess, accepted in the wrestling world because I'm so used to the Alexa Blisses, Mickie Jameses, and of course Sasha Banks and Charlotte Flairs of the world, that to have not even a Ronda Rousey, because she has dressed the part now, but Shayna Baszler is just almost just so different that it's odd at this point, you know?
Yeah, with Shayna Baszler, she's the first one. Like, we have yet to have seen a woman in WWE that is a legitimate, like, stand up toe to toe and knock almost anybody on the roster out kind of performer.
Yeah.
And Shayna Baszler has that aura about her. Nothing against Ronda Rousey. Ronda's kind of starting to come into that role a little bit more. We saw her vicious beatdown of everybody on Monday Night Raw, but like Shayna Baszler is someone that, you know, and I know that it's all an act, but when someone gets in the ring across from her, you can almost see that look of fear in their face because they know that she could legitimately break their arm. And there hasn't been anyone that I can remember, definitely anyone in a long, long time, that has had that sort of character and sort of feel to her from the day she stepped on the scene in WWE.
Yeah.
So hopefully her and Velveteen Dream, like you said, the sky is the limit for those two in their respective divisions, as long as, as long as Vince doesn't ruin them when they get up on the main roster.
Yeah, because they've called up all this talent and they haven't done anything with them, and it makes me wonder why they continue to bother calling talent up if they're just going to sit there. I mean, yeah, Bobby Roode won the U.S. title, but Samoa Joe has not held a title. Finn Balor has not held a title for more than 24 hours. Shinsuke
Nakamura has yet to even hold a title.
Yeah, he hasn't won a title yet either. And then, of course, you have the Revival. They haven't held the tag titles. And the Ascension, my God, what happened with them? But there's just so much talent that they've called up and done nothing with that it just really seems like an injustice.
You're leaving one team out, and I don't blame you. It's the Authors of Pain, and you're leaving them out because they haven't been on TV since they got called up after WrestleMania.
Yes.
So I don't blame you for leaving them out because WWE has forgotten about them. So why wouldn't we? But yeah, it's perplexing because like the Revival and the Authors of Pain could be. We saw it in NXT. They had phenomenal rivalries back and forth, and they could really. Nothing against Matt Hardy and Bray Wyatt because they're doing a decent job, but the Revival and the Authors of Pain could be the main attraction to pretty much every pay-per-view going right now if WWE would let them.
Yeah. Yeah,
but for some reason they're holding them two teams back. I don't know why. Like this last Monday night, the Revival jobbed to Roman Reigns and Bobby Lashley, and I don't know what Dash and Wilder did to piss someone off backstage, but good God, you're letting these guys go to waste.
Yeah,
like, there's a list of guys on WWE that I'm like, just let them go and let them go back to the independents because they did more there and they were worth more there. The roster, they're just wasting away.
Yeah, Sami Zayn's another one who hopefully that's the end of his really weird rivalry with Bobby Lashley because I have no idea where the hell that thing was going. But
well, it is the end of his rivalry because PW Insider said today that Sami Zayn is in Alabama or Georgia, wherever they go to get checked out. He has some kind of surgery, so he's going to be off TV for a while. So
which is
Sami
unfortunate.
Zayn has an injured. Yeah.
He's been very entertaining, very good on the mic. I love his character as it is right now. But we'll see. I feel like I keep saying we'll see, and then I'm disappointed time after time, and I should just really stick to only keeping up with NXT and its takeovers. But there's hope out there somewhere for the main rosters. And Shayne, I do want to thank you for taking the time to be part of part 1 of Fan Appreciation Week and sharing your thoughts about Money in the Bank and wrestling as of June 19th, 2018. So you have a great night, and thanks again.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
No problem, man. Take care.
Yep, you do.
All right, that was Shayne Merriman of Shayne Merriman, and that is going to do it for part 1 of Fan Appreciation Week. We will be back tomorrow night with part 2. We're going to continue with Fan Appreciation Week, but we will also have our new segment, the next in our new segment for the BattleBots Get to Know You. That'll be a great one. You won't want to miss it. But if you did miss any of this, it's not all is lost, okay? This isn't the WWE where we get your hopes up and then crush them. You can subscribe, podcast form, iTunes, SoundCloud, iHeartRadio, Spreaker.com. You can listen live on Spreaker.com as well as thefanshow.com. But I want to thank all of you once again for tuning in. Don't forget to check out Undisputed Belts for all your custom belt making needs. We're going to need a new one to give away another one of one for this year's United Bowl Fan Show Player of the Game. So I want to thank everyone once again for your continued support and for listening. Until next time, ladies and gentlemen, best of luck to you and yours. Go Niners, and remember, it's all fun and games until you butt fumble. Good night, folks.
Do you remember the time that Mark Sanchez ran into his own player's butt? That was funny sports.
Thank you for having me on the show, man. I love the Fan Show.